Moonlit Tales Asia presents Stories from the Past, where love, fate, and darkness intertwine. Long ago, during the Eastern Jin dynasty in ancient China, there lived a young woman named Yingtai. She was born into a wealthy and respected family surrounded by comfort and tradition. From a young age, Yingtai showed an unusual curiosity about the world. While other girls of her status were expected to stay within the household, learning embroidery and proper manners, Yingtai longed for something more. She wanted knowledge. She wanted freedom. Most of all, she wanted to study. However, in those times, education was reserved for men. Women were not permitted to attend school, no matter how intelligent or determined they were. This reality weighed heavily on Yingtai's heart. She would often watch young men pass by her home carrying books and laughing together as they walked to their lessons. Each time she felt a quiet ache, a sense that her life was being confined by rules she did not choose. One evening, after much thought, Yingtai approached her parents with a bold request. She asked for permission to travel and study like a man. At first, her parents were shocked. They dismissed the idea, reminding her of her duties and the expectations placed upon her as a daughter. But Yingtai did not give up. She pleaded with them, promising to disguise herself as a man and behave carefully to avoid suspicion. After many days of persistence, her parents reluctantly agreed. They could see that her determination would not fade, and they feared that denying her would only bring her greater unhappiness. With their permission granted, Yingtai prepared for her journey. She dressed in men's clothing, practiced speaking and walking like a young scholar, and set off on a path that would change her life forever. Not long after beginning her journey, Yingtai encountered a young man named Liang. Shanbo came from a modest background and possessed a gentle, sincere personality. He was not particularly wealthy, but he was kind-hearted and deeply devoted to his studies. When Yingtai and Shanbo met, they quickly found themselves drawn to each other. They shared similar values, a love for learning, and a quiet sense of sincerity that made their conversation flow naturally. As they traveled together toward the same school, they formed a strong bond. They laughed together, discussed poetry, and spoke about their dreams. Shanbo saw Yingtai as a refined and somewhat delicate young man, but never suspected her. True identity Yingtai, on the other hand, found herself growing increasingly fond of Shanbo. His honesty and warmth touched her deeply. Upon arriving at the school, the two became sworn brothers, a bond symbolizing deep friendship and loyalty. They studied side by side for 3 years. During that time, they shared countless experiences, long nights of studying, quiet walks under the moonlight, and heartfelt conversations about life. For Yingtai, those years were both joyful and painful. She cherished every moment spent with Shanbo, yet she carried a secret that created a silent distance between them. As her feelings for him grew stronger, she struggled with the knowledge that he saw her only as a brother. There were moments when Yingtai tried to reveal the truth in subtle ways. She would hint at her femininity, speak about a sister who resembled her, or make gentle remarks that suggested her hidden identity. But Shanbo, innocent and straightforward, never understood. To him, Yingtai was simply his closest friend. As time passed, the day eventually came when Yingtai had to return home. Her parents summoned her, reminding her that her time away had come to an end. Though her heart was heavy, she had no choice but to obey. Before leaving, Yingtai tried one last time to guide Shanbo toward the truth. She told him that she had a younger sister who was beautiful, intelligent, and kind. She suggested that Shanbo visit her home someday and meet this sister, hinting that they might be well suited for each other. Shanbo agreed without hesitation, grateful for the invitation and unaware of its deeper meaning. Their farewell was filled with emotion. Shanbo felt sadness at parting from his closest friend, while Yingtai felt the pain of leaving behind the man she loved without knowing if he would ever truly understand her feelings. Months later, Shanbo finally made the journey to Yingtai's home. He was excited to reunite with his friend and curious to meet the sister he had heard so much about. But upon arriving, he was met with a shocking revelation. Yingtai, his sworn brother, was in fact a woman. At first, Shanbo could hardly believe it. The truth seemed impossible. But as he looked at Yingtai, now dressed in her true form, everything began to make sense. Her gentle manner, her subtle hints, her deep understanding of his thoughts, it all became clear in an instant. What followed was a flood of emotions. Surprise turned into realization. and realization turned into love. Shanbo understood that what he had felt for Yingtai all along was more than friendship. It was love, pure and profound. However, their happiness was tragically short-lived. During Yingtai's absence, her parents had arranged her marriage to another man, Ma Wentai, the son of a wealthy and powerful family. This arrangement had been made without her consent, as was customary at the time. When Shanbo learned of this, his heart was shattered. He pleaded with Yingtai's parents, begging them to allow the two of them to be together, but his pleas were rejected. To them, Shanbo was of lower status and could not offer the same security and prestige as Ma Wenkai, devastated and powerless. Shanbo returned home. The weight of his sorrow consumed him. Day by day, his health declined. He lost his appetite, his energy, and his will to live. Eventually, unable to bear the pain any longer, Shanbo fell gravely ill and passed away. When Yingtai received news of Shanbo's death, her world collapsed. She was overwhelmed with grief and regret. She wished she had told him the truth, sooner wished she had fought harder against her fate. But it was too late. Despite her sorrow, the wedding preparations continued. Bound by duty and family honor, Yingtai had no choice but to proceed. With the marriage on the day of the wedding dressed in elaborate bridal clothing, Yingtai was carried in a procession toward her future husband's home. Along the way, the procession passed by Shanbo's grave. At that moment, Yingtai could no longer contain her emotions. She demanded that the procession stop. Ignoring the protests around her, she stepped out and approached the grave, standing before it. She wept openly, pouring out her love and sorrow. She spoke to Shanbo as if he could hear her, telling him that her heart had always belonged to him. Suddenly the sky darkened, thunder rumbled, and a strong wind began to blow. As Yingtai knelt before the grave, the earth trembled, and then, as if responding to her grief, the grave split open without hesitation. Yingtai threw herself into it. The onlookers were stunned, unable to comprehend what had just happened. But soon after, something extraordinary occurred. From the grave, two butterflies emerged, fluttering gracefully into the air. They circled, each other dancing in harmony before flying away together into the open sky. It was said that these butterflies were the spirits of Liang, Shanbo, and Zhu Yingtai, finally united in death, free from the constraints of the world that had kept them apart. Their love did not end in tragedy alone, but transformed into something eternal, something free. And from that day on, people believed that whenever two butterflies were seen flying together, it was Liang Shanbo and Zhu Yingtai, still side by side, still inseparable, forever. This story is retold and adapted by Moonlit Tales Asia. Inspired by traditional folklore, please do not copy, re-upload, or redistribute this content in any form without permission.